All right, it's Friday. It is the last word, and I just realized it's the last Friday of the week. Duh. It's actually the only Friday of the week. It's the last Friday of September, and it's the last Friday of the quarter. So this is the ultimate last word. Jody, KP, what's happening?
Good to see you.
Well, nobody's dying on this call, so it's not the ultimate last word, but it is certainly high on the ranks of last words.
It's right up there. It is for today. It is the last word, so we're just going to go with that. So we've got for our friends and colleagues that have been kind of battling through Hurricane Helene. Our thoughts and prayers are with y'all. Hopefully, well, if you're listening to this or watching it, you probably got through it okay. But hopefully, everyone's settled. Got through it safely and soundly. I know. I don't know if you guys follow Josh Pitts or not, but his he's got his family on a sailboat for 2 years, and it's day 102, and they're in a marina and somewhere in Georgia last night, hunkered down, battling through the hurricane. So, and he made it through.
Yeah, I lived in Fort Lauderdale for 13 years and Tampa for 6 months, and the storm surge is the part that's like so underrated.
Yeah,
but I mean they gotta call it something different, like massive flooding. Right? Because I feel like people don't take it seriously. Like, oh, the storm surge. I mean, people are literally flooded if you're near the water. I mean, it's just massive, massive flooding. And we wonder why our insurance costs go up. As 23,000 acres just got torched here in California, and this hurricane is the third major one to hit just in the last 2 months. I mean, so yeah, I rode out Katrina. The eye of Katrina literally went over my house in Fort Lauderdale. It was like the weirdest thing. It was like the calmest, most peaceful day, and then the wind started kicking up again. They're pretty scary. Just a big, loud train right outside your door with tons of wind. So hopefully, hopefully we've made it through, and everyone's feeling okay. And I know it's going to start battering some of the interior states and move a little bit north. But I'm glad you let off with that, because everyone's thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I did some research on homeowners insurance because the topic of affordability is so huge in the industry. And the average annual homeowners insurance in Florida, if you have hurricane coverage, is $4,400. That's for a $300,000 home. And then the average cost of a home in Florida is over $400,000. And you think about the areas that you typically would carry hurricane insurance, and you're on the coastal areas where the home prices are even more expensive. And it's astronomical. And, you start having issues too with supply of materials when there are natural disasters, and that has rippling effects on building prices and inventory that we're already in such a great deficit around.
So when I lived there, the blue tarps on the roofs where people had to get repair done from Hurricane Wilma that hit in August, and then a month later Katrina hit, about 5 weeks later. There's blue tarps on roofs to cover up the leaks and the holes that got exposed from the hurricanes. And when you would fly in and out of Fort Lauderdale, you guys know how much I fly. I mean, 2 years after the storm, roofs were still not repaired. They had visible blue tarps on the roofs. It's a mess. And my property in downtown Fort Lauderdale, it's a rental now since I moved to California 8.5 years ago. I'm in the middle of renewing my insurance policy. It's a 3,000 square foot. It's a 3,000 square foot, 3.3, $7,500 for hazard insurance with like your standard, 2% deductible. Then I got to do flood. I did get another quote for $6,500. I mean, thank God I'm locked into a super low rate from like 04, and the thing cash flows at this point. But it's all these things are barriers to entry to get into the game, right? Yeah. To get into a home, to get into being a landlord. And I tell this team all the time. I've been thinking about my entire life, and this is just another example. You know, you look at Europe, there is no middle class. You know, either you own property or you ain't coming close. And I'm telling you, it is a story to tell people when you're out there. If you can afford to open a door, do it. I don't care if you got to move outside of town, just get in the game, because it's getting harder and harder and harder to own a property in America for so many reasons. And insurance is not national. Flood insurance has a fund. Hazard insurance is controlled by the states. I mean, our dysfunctional states, you know, we have tons of them everywhere. And these carriers don't want a lopsided book from wildfires in California and hurricanes in Florida. And so, you know, tornadoes and straight line winds in Texas. So State Farm and Farmers, they can only take on so much. Like, they got to do so many loans and policies in middle America to make up, to balance the book for these enormous loan amounts on the coast that are, you know, in hazardous areas. It's getting harder to own a house. And so if you have a borrower on the fence or a friend, I'm just telling you, like, you got to tell them, just like I'm telling you, if you can afford a house, get in the game, because it's not going to be there forever. People have to start talking like that. This may be your last chance to ever own a home. I mean, I don't know. And not everyone makes a ton of money, you know. We saw the economic board, you know, confidence, consumer confidence, people who make 50,000 and under, which are not your typical profile for a homeowner, but they are not, you know, their sentiment is poor. It's a leading indicator of potential recession. We may already be in a recession, by the way. So I cannot stress it enough. Like, the way people have to talk with a sense of urgency when selling or convincing or talking or consulting a friend or a client. You may not ever get in a house. It is getting really expensive. And here's why. If you can afford, get in the game.
Yep. Jody and I are in the Midwest. We'd like you Floridians and Californians, just stay where you're at or go somewhere else. Don't come out here.
Oh, brother. If it wasn't so damn cold, I bet you'd get a lot more influx. They're going to Texas and Florida.
The global warming is helping Ohio.
Yeah, Michigan too.
Yeah.
We're now part of the Sun Belt. We've
Yes.
gone from the Rust Belt to the Sun Belt.
Don't tell anyone though, because
Don't
then
tell anybody.
take our food and brewery scene and combined it with a sunshine state. It's all over. We won't be able to keep people out.
So we're I think getting on inside of 60 days, if less, to the election. I can't do math, but probably 45 days, less than 45 days. So, you know, we've seen and started to hear about kind of the policies from each candidate. And I thought we just talk a little bit about, get your feedback on what you're seeing from the policies or from the proposals or the rhetoric in some cases that is being put out there by both sides, and talk through that. This morning, I saw Housing Wire put out a survey asking people for kind of our feedback from an industry perspective as it relates to the Harris and Trump policies. So that was interesting. I'm guessing, you know, the next week or so they'll have some good feedback on that. But Jody, what's your take so far on what you're reading and seeing and hearing and listening to?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of concern around the tax credit that Harris has spelled out, just because it will cause a further issue. I know that there's money looking to be put in to increase inventory, but unless we solve the inventory problem, adding more home buyers to the market with a $25,000 tax credit our home values are going to keep going up and pushing people out of the market just because there isn't the inventory. And, you know, for reasons like hurricanes that further, you know, cause those issues, it's a greater concern.
Yeah, that was the one thing I noted was love it if we can help folks get into homeownership that deserve to be in homeownership, and there's great down payment assistance programs out there, but in this particular time and place, we just don't have enough inventory. And I love the idea around a strategy to increase inventory, but let's face it, that's like a 5 to 10 year, horizon to make that really happen at scale.
Yeah. Was it around like 2009, 10 when we had a tax credit? I think was when we last had a tax credit for first-time home buyers, but then we didn't have an inventory issue. Home values had come down from the bubble bursting of value, so we weren't in the same situation then.
Yeah. So you can see what happens on our screen when one of our co-hosts leaves. Here comes KP back in.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to hit my my mute button and I hit the whole thing off. So do you guys mind if I go ahead? Yeah. So for me, there was the Home Economic Recovery Act, the HERA. And the reason I know it so well, not only was I in South Florida, where it was an absolute disaster on many fronts and the global financial crisis, but my girlfriend at the time, Rebecca, she used that tax credit to buy a property. So fun fact, my wife at one point was the hot cart girl at the golf course I used to go to. So and so I know we have some golfer fans out here. Jody, you can appreciate the hot wife comment. Come on. So we were always very friendly with each other, and anyway, she she's all tip income, right, which is a big talking point in the election right now. Making like 88 grand a year, not paying taxes, only working Thursday through Sunday. And she bought a house and she bought a Lexus and she could cook. I'm like, this girl's awesome. And she's from Michigan, Ryan. So, right around in your hood, actually north of you in Armada, if you've ever been to the Armada Fair and Blake's apple cider farm, she's from way up there. So good girl. Anyway.
In the thumb.
So yeah, good. When we got married, we had joint tax returns. I would see that tax credit. You got to pay it back over 10 years. And so you got like a credit up front, but then you'd have to pay it back over time. So I liked it. It worked. It got her in a house. We still have that property rented out in South Florida as well. And, it helped her create wealth, right? So she owns a property, which is now a rental. And so I do like that approach. I think it works, but I think it's a different time now because back then we had tremendous supply.
Right.
We just don't have supply right now, especially the housing stock under $300,000 purchase price. It's just not there. So, let me zoom out and answer your original question. I think both candidates are full of it a little bit to a certain degree. And they're on the campaign trail with less than 5 weeks to go before Election Day. They're going to make promises and hand out the goodies, but at the end of the day, you can only do so much with executive order versus passing bills in Congress. And, if we get, a split Congress again, or maybe one party wins out, but they don't have a supermajority, I just don't see any of this stuff really passing. And so addressing homeowner supply really is a local level permitting, zoning, cost thing. You guys know I build houses on the side with some a college buddy of mine, and the amount of permitting and work and everything that goes into building a house, on average in America, it's $100,000 a door before you open it. That's on average, right?
Before before the shovel hits the ground.
That's right. So,
and that's where that's in areas that you have jobs to support home growth. The other problem is that in a lot of those areas, they don't want to they want the housing issue solved and they want equity, but not in their backyard. So they aren't going to make it easy to build a $300,000 house because in a lot of the neighborhoods, they feel as though it'll bring their home values down. So it's like, yeah, go solve it, but not in my backyard. So a lot of those zoning issues aren't going to go away at the local level.
Yeah, I will say, so the state of California has mandated a certain amount and number of affordable housing units for each county in the state that they must build. And so it's been a big, to do here in Newport Beach, Costa Mesa is right across the street there. You got Corona del Mar, all these areas. And so if you've ever flown into Santa Ana, John Wayne Airport in Orange County, it's kind of weird. It technically is the city of Santa Ana. And so like this little sliver just kind of juts out from where Santa Ana is, like right wedged in between Costa Mesa and Newport Beach. And there's some apartment complexes and some office buildings and some open space that's over there. And it's where I go to get my bank, and I grab coffee every now and then. There's some, mortgage broker shops that have their companies there. I think, Lone Stream is a company that's not too far from there. So they've kind of settled on putting some affordable housing units, like up to 3,000 units. You guys know I get to the airport in like 7 minutes. So it's like right there. So it's not in my backyard, which I don't have a very big backyard, but it's pretty close. And, there's been a lot of planning that goes on at the local level to decide where to put affordable housing units that this state is mandating be built. And so, as much as California gets a bad rap, it's not business friendly, and there's many reasons to give it, a bad rap. I feel like they're forcing this issue, and they're getting it right. They're forcing people to put affordable housing in their backyard.
Yep, for sure. Did you see, I think it's Costco that's building, they're putting Costco at the retail level, and then there's 300 housing units above Costco.
Really?
It's
In LA.
in California. Yeah.
I think it's in LA.
Yeah.
So funny story. I love Costco. It's a great stock to own. I'm not a financial advisor. I am not responsible for your losses, only your profits. But what I will say is I moved here about 8.5 years ago. And we're kind of getting the lay of the land. The kids are young. And so I went on Saturday to Costco. And let me tell you something. I will never go back to Costco ever again. I will never step foot in a Costco until the day I die. And that is a promise. I mean, these people that are there.
You can buy a casket there, by the way.
But I know, I heard that. So it's like, it's just too crowded. It's crazy. It's so busy. Anyway, I can't do it. But it is crazy. The live, work, play concept where you could just shop, in mass right downstairs and buy like 10 Canon cameras or whatever. I don't know.
They have good pizza too at lunchtime. So
that's $1.50 dogs. Come on.
So staying on the kind of the legislative front for a moment, the FHFA is being urged by some senators to kind of talk about or really phase in the new energy standards. And in KP, I'm really curious from your perspective in some of the building that you're doing with the houses you guys are working on, how we think these, what we think this impact is on the GSE side, if any, and then just from a practical perspective, what you're seeing from an energy perspective in the construction side of housing, KP.
Well, again, I'm in California, so the standards are pretty high, right? So, I think this state always takes it to a level higher than a national level. So we already have so many, codes we have to meet, and they are enforced by the cities. Our projects right now are in Culver City, in LA County, and also in Palm Desert, out in the desert. So desert's not as strict. Look, I own a Tesla. I was in Students Preserving Our Environment organization in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, growing up north of Dallas. Like, to me, it just makes, I literally collect bottles. I literally collect every plastic bottle or can that I use, and I put them away, and I make my kids take a trip about once a quarter to the OC Recycling Center. And I said, this is your down payment money for your car. So whatever you have, I will match. You're also helping save the environment and being a good human being. So I'm in on all of it. I'm a big fan of it. At a time when housing supply is short, adding more regulation to add more expense. I get the arguments both ways. I think at the end of the day, the biggest driver for cost is lower interest rates, which we now have, and trending down.
Makes sense.
Do you want to talk about GSE and the talk of privatizing the GSEs?
Never going to happen. Never going to happen. It's never going to happen. There's no reason for it to happen. It needs to be a utility. It's just They don't have the supermajority. They don't have the majority. They don't have the guts. It's a piggy bank for the U.S. Treasury. There's no way. It's the dumbest. And I get it. Like, you get these libertarian folks who are like we must do it and get out of the government. There's no way. There's no way. It's not going to happen. Look at what happened with all the private companies during COVID. Okay, and I'm not knocking the private, like the people we sell loans to. I'm not knocking them. Okay, because when the shit hit the fan, you couldn't sell a loan to the people with the biggest pockets at a reasonable price. They were covering their own ass because borrowers weren't making payments. Instantly, no one had enough cash to float this business. And the only one that did was an explicit guarantee from the United States government and backed by the Fed when they said, we'll fund everything, we'll go 0 rates, we'll let you not make your payment, we'll back you up on this, that, and the other. And when that happens again, there's no way any private entity or collection of private entities will ever, ever, ever be able to do what our government can do. So it's just a bunch of kabuki theater. It's never going to happen. It should never happen. It's a utility. It's housing. It's like the biggest wealth creation thing. Why would the government want to give up control of the biggest wealth creation, job creation factor in America? Shelter. There's no way. It's a dumb conversation, but carry on.
Still happening. So we know what, if we need to get a reaction out of KP,
Yeah, we got
privatize GSEs.
And we've gone 21 minutes and he hasn't said the 3-letter word that starts with a F and ends with a D.
No, but I will say this. The people who work at Fannie and Freddie are incredible. They're amazing. I mean, they're very hard workers. They get it. They get our business. They listen. And I can't imagine, I feel like there's a servitude amongst the cultures at the GSEs that, when you really deal with them on, a constant basis, you lose that vibe when it becomes a private company.
Yeah.
Because then it's about us and the bottom line and us winning and beating everybody else and dominating and all that stuff. Like that ain't going to fly for housing.
Yeah. And not to mention really poor for the, low to moderate income buyers. We think that people are priced out of the market today. It would crush. We definitely would eliminate the middle class.
Yeah. I was going to say that I know the GSEs get knocked at times for kind of the slow movement that the change takes a long time, but there is some pretty innovative stuff that happens within the GSEs and directly in support of the mission borrowers, and so absent in a private purely private world, I agree that innovation is going to get stifled, and the innovation is going to tend to be at the jumbo, the closer to the jumbo side of the world than not. So there was a couple interesting articles that came out this week. One was talking about hiring. Are we starting to see some hiring happening again inside of mortgage? I think the answer is yes. And then there was some same article had some interesting points on the signing bonus for big producers and kind of what that's starting to look like in this new world going forward. Any conversations you guys had this week with folks on those topics that either aligns with the articles or maybe counters?
I definitely have heard a lot of conversations over the past month about hiring and also outsourcing to keep from having to hiring to expand and contract. So that has been an ongoing theme within the industry, and it's been talked about. It's been talked about since rates went down and there were layoffs, and so many people are behind the 8 ball and they haven't done anything in the process, and all of a sudden they're going to want to turn on outsourcing, or they're going to be trying to hire again. Even with a small increase in applications, people are feeling they've cut so thin that they're feeling the impacts of having done those cuts and not having something lined up to be able to handle the business with small blips and, in refi.
It is the problem of our industry that, some have solved with assembly line fulfillment, right? Technology that enables that. But this is where technology comes in and helps the people that are working in the business do more. And so, I again, when I talk about technology and disruption, I'm not saying it to eliminate jobs. I'm saying it to make the jobs more efficient and hopefully do more, right? And so, but yeah, hiring is up because, typically September sucks, right? It's only 20 funding days. You got a holiday in it with Labor Day, and there's not as much purchase business going on. People are already in school, and so we had a nice tailwind with lower rates, this summer, and so we have not trailed off. I think there was 22 funding days in August versus 20 this month, and our locks are going to outright beat August, not just on a per day, but just an aggregate number, gross number, and so that's a nice tailwind going into the spring purchase season next year with more Fed rate cuts coming. And so, it's good for jobs and growth, especially at, independent mortgage bankers. I know there's some caution out there of hiring, but, just in case you don't believe it, the Fed cut 50 bips and there's more to come. So,
right.
Snap out of it, what was that Moonstruck? Snap out of it, so, you gotta believe it. This is, it's not going to be a boom and you can step your way into it, but there's definitely going to be more business and more business to come.
PRMG is a great kind of barometer for the industry because you guys are multi-channel, right? So
yeah.
When you look at the September rate locks, are you seeing a consistency in the growth of refi as a percentage across channels, or is one channel kind of, leading the way on refis?
So it's always correspondent has the highest refi percentage. It's always been the case. And then we even have some delegated clients in there as well. They just like, our structure, and we're not so rigid as some of the other aggregators, right? So, correspondent, in a normal market where there is refinances, okay, not a normal purchase market.
Yeah.
It's typically correspondent is about 55% purchase. Wholesale is typically about 65% purchase, and retail is usually 89 to 90% purchase. And so that's typically the breakdown in the mix. And so, but this is going to be a different animal. The servicers are really good now.
Right.
They're really good at retention. And I know we talk about this a lot. And this trigger lead bill that's going to go through, servicers still get to use triggers. Yeah. Not that trigger leads is like this end all be all panacea. It's just, to me, the point of the bill is just to get rid of the 50 phone calls that come from every Tom, Dick, and Harry once the credit report's pulled. I don't care that servicers have triggers. We're a servicer on a small, very small extent. We use Trust Engine and, the former sales boomerang. We use those triggers. It's just a conversation starter. The relationship is with the originator. That's usually what wins out, in my opinion. But servicers are really good. They're the best they've ever been. They're on their game. They paid a lot for servicing. They don't want to lose the loan of the borrower. And so I'll be interested to watch that battle continue to play out.
Yeah, from that relationship perspective, though, it seems like unless your Robin Clayton is her actively marketing on behalf of the loan officers to keep that relationship, there's not a large percentage of loan officers who do a good job of keeping themselves at the forefront of it's, if you're not marketing for them, you're not going to win that game.
And let me just take that one step further. I know we're about to wrap up here. But our originators do a good job of staying in contact. But the way the consumer is, it's 6:30 p.m. on the West Coast. They're sitting out at the table and they're like, I want to talk to someone about my refinance right now.
Right.
They don't say it like that, but that's the thought. So they start going through all that stuff. So who picks up the phone? The call centers. Yeah. They're always on. You know, they're always on. And so the system's in place to be there at the point of thought for that consumer. That's why servicers are so good. And as good as originators are, it just, you know, you just can't be there all the time. And so you try to, and it's just hard. It's a hard game to play.
Well, guys, we made it through another episode, and Jody, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Next week
I'm
is
gonna do another Friday Night Lights LinkedIn video tonight. It was such a hit.
Yeah,
everyone loves seeing it. It's a little chilly tonight, chillier. So I'll be roaming around rambling. And you get a hot tip here at the last word. I may be about 4 transfusions of cigar and Zen Deep. So let's just say.
I want which kid are all the kids playing tonight?
All 4 last week. Tonight, all but Aria, my 9-year-old. So if we got 3 games starting at 5:30, and then 4 soccer games tomorrow, plus a birthday party and batting practice, and 2 more soccer games and a baseball game Sunday. Never a dull moment at the Perennial House.
Love it. And then off to Dallas.
Yeah,
KP,
to Dallas.
Jody, thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Come back next Friday for the last word. Thank you to the Chrisman commentary for presenting the last word. See y'all.
Cheers.